Coach Lynn, welcome to the basketball podcast.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate you having me on.
Awesome to have you here. What a year. Incredible year. We're going to go a bunch of places, but maybe I know you're getting ready into recruiting after this call. So talk to us about the impact of this season on campus, on your program, on recruiting, on your players returning, all the different things that come from it.
Yeah, it's been an unbelievable run, unbelievable year, and certainly there's been benefits right away. We are we've done well in recruiting so far. It's been being in a low major school, you fight a little bit hey, who are you? What league are you in? Are you guys any good? These are questions you have to answer all the time. And obviously, the success that we had this year lets us jump over some of those things and can get us into the conversation a little bit faster. And as far as retention and all those things, unfortunately, I don't think it necessarily affects it all that much anymore. If anything, it's hard to rally the guys and say, hey, we were so close. Hey, maybe we could get them next year. We lost three of our best players and to the portal. And it is what it is. In today's world, I'm happy for those guys to get an opportunity to go and pursue their dream of playing high major basketball. And that it is what it is. And we've been able to bring in and get some, really talented guys this offseason.
Yeah, it's great. It shortens your conversation. We went to the tournament. They all
Yeah.
understand that, so it's beautiful. And talk to us about the psychology a little bit. You get your head coaching job at a place you were previously an assistant, and then picked 11th out of 13 teams, so not many expectations for you. Talk to me about the psychology for you as a head coach initially. Do you even know that? Do you care? And then what do you do from there?
Yes, I did know. If I told you I didn't care, I'd be lying, but I didn't put a ton of stock into it, especially at the time in October when those things come out. To be honest, I didn't know if we were going to be any good or not. I knew we had talent. I knew we had good players. I remember coming into my AD's office in October sometime before we played any games, and I said, "Hey, like, I know that I don't know how good we are, but I don't think we're going to get blown out. I think we're going to be able to hang in our league." And he said, "Listen, like I know your first time being a head coach. Don't get ahead of yourself. This is the first time in the MAAC that only 10 teams have made the tournament of the 13 teams in the league." And he said, "Hey, just how about we start with making the tournament being the goal for the year?" And I chuckled. And us coaches, we always have higher expectations than stuff like that. But it grounded me a little bit, and then we talked to the guys a little bit about it, and basically put it in our back pocket as the year went on. We, our staff, we bought random jerseys of guys in the NBA with that wear number 11. So like I have a Jalen Brunson like T-shirt jersey, and there's a Sabonis one floating around our office somewhere, and a couple others. And randomly, we just wear them to practice and see if the guys would notice. And eventually, they picked it up, and maybe once or twice we play, especially when we were playing some of the teams that maybe as the year started to go and we were playing well, and the guys might look over. I'd wear it during pregame warmups or shoot around that day, and just to keep it in the back of their mind. But what it did do is when we were able to get to the tournament, our conference tournament, it helped relieve a lot of the pressure that maybe our guys would have had. We were able to talk to them about no one expected us to be here. The pressure's all on them, right? Take it off of us and put it on them because no one expected us to be here. You've already exceeded all the expectations that there are for you. Now just go out there and play. And I think that helped a bit. Obviously, we're able to continue to have success.
Absolutely. And a fun way to be able to address it as well. And you can't hide from these things nowadays. So I love that answer in terms of just dealing with it and moving on. Your team's offensive efficiency seemed to peak as the season went on. And it speaks to the success of the team. Defense and offense got better. And that's what every coach wants throughout the year. Maybe let's focus first on offense. What was the goals initially for the team offensively? And then what were some tweaks throughout the season that maybe helped spur the team to more success as the season went on?
Yeah, I came from UNCG and I worked with Mike Jones the last 8 years. And Coach Jones is very defensive minded, and I was in charge of the offense and had to fight all the time to get offense on the practice plan. And I I really wanted to be a good offensive coach and have a good offensive team. But I'd spent 8 years learning how to be a really good defensive coach. And so I got in, and my whole goal offensively was to play as fast as we could without turning the ball over at an astronomical rate. And we turned the ball over at an astronomical rate for most of the season. But that was the biggest shift, right? As we finally got to a point where we could play at a pace that was uncomfortable to our opponents, but comfortable for us. And it wasn't necessarily breakneck speed where we're playing 75 possession games. We weren't Alabama. We weren't doing that. But we were able to play fast enough that we were able to create early offensive opportunities when the defense wasn't set. and we limited our turnovers, especially the last month of the season. And that's the reason we're more efficient. We shot the ball pretty well all year. We were a good 3-point shooting team. We had a kid who was 4th in the country in 3-point field goal percentage. So that certainly helps. We're a little old school maybe in our offensive approach. We do not shoot a ton of threes. We are much more determined to get to the front of the rim. And because of that, and then obviously trying to get to the free throw line. But because of that, we do settle for some paint twos that maybe some other people wouldn't take, as opposed to shooting a million threes. But it's worked for us. We were the biggest team in the league. We were really good around the basket because of that. We played two bigs. And there was just a transition phase of our pace and then focusing on how can we continue to create great shots around the goal.
So reflecting back and maybe helping the coaches that are listening then, what were some things that maybe led to reducing those turnovers that maybe you could have instituted even a little bit earlier as you figured things out?
Yeah, we tried a lot of things throughout practice. We had probably maybe in January sometime we pulled out the balloons, and when we popped balloons, when guys turned it over, and when you used up all your balloons, your team lost and you had to run, and that woke some guys up a little bit. We started to change some scoring later in practice. We gave +3 for a live ball turnover for the other team and +2 for a dead ball turnover, and just ways to try to incentivize or de-incentivize turning the ball over. And I think, again, if I could do it over again, we would have definitely changed some of our scoring early and found ways to just, I don't necessarily love punishing the guys for turning the ball over, especially early in practice, because if you want to play fast, you're going to turn the ball over early. But there has to be an awareness of it's not okay. Just because it's going to happen some doesn't mean we're okay with it. And so by putting some sort of giving the other team a point or taking points away or however you want to do it, that was a way that our guys were able to see the gravity. If you have a live ball turnover and it's pick six and that you turn it over, you lose 3 points and they get a dunk and they get 2 points, that 5-point possession changes the course of a 4 or 5 minute drill pretty quickly. Guys are a little bit more conscious to take care of the ball.
Well, dealing with the realities at your level sometimes, again, get the best players you can, but they don't always fit together in, say, as you said, the modern approach necessarily, but you adapt and you do what you do. So a lot of coaches contact me all the time. Hey, I have two bigs. What do I do with them? How do I play with two bigs? That's my reality. So talk to us particularly about the spacing piece of playing with two bigs and then what you did with them to be able to create advantages.
Yeah, we stole a ton from overseas. Oh, during COVID, I think is the first time I had to figure out how I wanted to play with two bigs, and got in touch with Ryan Pannone, and he had been over with Oded over in Israel, and they'd run a bunch of stuff with two bigs, and really enjoyed learning from them and seeing some of the spacing that they do. But we're different than a traditional. I tell people we play ball screen motion, and everyone assumes it's continuity ball screen, right? And the ball is you're just wing ball screen after wing ball screen, and the ball's swinging from side to side, and that's not what we do. So we have three spots where ball screens happen in our offense. We have wing ball screens, which are down near the break at the 3-point line. And then we have middle ball screens, which is in the middle third. And when the wing ball screen happens, our other big, we put him just off the opposite elbow. We labeled that term the bullseye in our offense because it's easier for guys to remember, and B, we're really trying to get that guy the ball. So when you come off that wing ball screen, his man is oftentimes sitting in the charge circle trying to help on the roll. And now that pass creates a closeout from 15 feet for a big who can usually get a rip drive and put his shoulder into somebody and create an advantage. So we have one big setting of screen on the wing. He can pop or roll depending on his strengths. And then the other big is at the bullseye, just off the elbow. He could stretch out to the 3-point line in the slot if that fits his game, but it eliminates that aggressive drive. So we try not to get him there too often. If that guy were to get the ball or the ball were to get to the middle third, there's a lot of things that could happen. But if in the simplest sense, we'll play middle ball screen there. And the other big, again, depending on his ability, he could have popped and he could be in the corner, or he's going to play in the dunker, usually following the ball, looking to seal or hope his man steps up and play in the dunker while our other big rolls or pops. We play through the short roll and the middle ball screen a ton to get us advantage on the other side of the floor.
I think it speaks to what you're saying there is it's again, you're changing shapes within it. It's not always the same shape. So it distorts the defense and their understanding of where the two bigs are going to be and what's going to happen out of those different situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was my goal. listen, there's a million ways to do it, and a lot of guys have won a lot of ways, but I don't want to be a coach who stands over there and it's like I'm playing Madden football on my Xbox with my son and calling every play and getting guys exactly where they need to be. I'd much rather them have some concepts and ideas and spacing to play out of, and then let their talent shine depending on who they are. I think it makes us really unpredictable. For example, we get into a ton of splits, high splits and low splits, just off of that spacing because a guard will just throw the ball to the big, whether he's standing at the elbow, whether he's in the slot, whether he's on the wing, and they'll get into splits with another guard. And it's all random, but it allows us to create different, like you said, different shapes and different actions out of a pretty standard spacing for us, and allows us to have a level of unpredictability in what we do.
Conceptually speaking, then, when they got into splits, was that something, if it went to the high post in this situation, that triggers splits for them? Or were there multiple possibilities out of that type of entry and action?
Yeah, no, there were multiple. So we gave him three options. We could just go play get game when you throw it to the high post, and he could just turn it in, basically turn a ball screen into a handoff. He could tight curl those handoffs if he getting chased hard right to the basket, or he could go into splits. And again, it was really sloppy. I tell all of our recruits now when they sit here, it's like, hey, you're going to get here and you're going to hate what we do on offense until October. You're going to feel like you have no space. You feel like you're always messing up. But there's going to be a time in October when the spacing kind of solves itself and the decisions become easier and faster. And all of a sudden, everybody has space. And the fun part is, we can be a team where I think 6 or 7 guys can go 8 to 14 points a game. And I think that's a lot of fun. I don't particularly like to coach a team, and I wouldn't want to be on a team where one guy scores 22 and everybody else is scoring 4 or 5 points. And unless I'm the guy who scores 22, then that might be fun for me. But I'm more of a fan of just the randomness and equal opportunity that comes from playing conceptually like that.
Love that. And then when you did need to, you talked about the randomness of that, but when you did need to get your best matchup, not necessarily your best player, but your best matchup on opportunity, what types of things did you do?
Yeah, so like I said, everything had a name. And so a lot of times we could just call a name as they're coming down the floor if we wanted to get into, we had a really good forward and a really good shooter, obviously. So we would go wing to top on those ball screens, and we would go into a Michigan screen in a way. And so we would just call a quick name and they would know, hey, when that ball hits the top of the key, instead of going into a ball screen or into a get game or anything like that, we're going to try to get that a push action, that away screen, and see if we can get that shooter something quick. So we gave everything a name, all the different looks you could get to, and so they could communicate with each other. If a guard throws it to a big and he knows he wants to get to a split, he could call it, right, and let that guard big, no, don't try to hand me the ball because I'm going into the split, or I'm hornet cutting tight to the rim, or whatever it is. And we tried to do our best to give everything a name so they could communicate, and then we could obviously give them what we needed when we knew that there was something we were trying to take advantage of.
I love playing this way. I love hearing you talk about it. And one of the things that evolves from this is that your players figure out actions that maybe you haven't thought about. And then you get to put a name to it. And then this becomes something that empowers them as well because they figured it out. Can you talk about one of those examples maybe in your mind?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things our bigs they got really good at fake handoff and keeping it and playing downhill. And we didn't think that would necessarily, obviously, you knew it's available, but I didn't think that would necessarily be a strength of our guys. Probably because when we played, we had the similar offense at UCG, but we had a lot more constraints on it, and we didn't get to very many dribble handoff keepers or anything like that. And when we just started playing, we got to a lot of them, and our guys kept. They called out keep, but probably more than I wanted them to. Found ways to create advantages and get downhill. And then what was really fun to see was how well they became passing when after they kept. The bigs would play together, and we got a lot of 2-on-1 dunks where one of our big kept it. He turned downhill from the elbow, and the other big changed sides of the floor, and he's getting a dunk big to big. And two bigs that when I got here, I would have never thought that they would have been able to play make for each other. But as the year goes on and you let them play and you let them experiment, they maybe some of the skills that they've had and haven't been able to use, or they develop new skills over the course of the year that then are able to come out in the game.
I know that when I've done this before, like when I've taught handoffs and gets and stuff like that, one of the things that I've moved away from is teaching the keep because I found if I taught it early, they did it too much. And then it
No
didn't
doubt.
become deceptive. It became the primary option instead of a counter option.
Absolutely. No, and I think that sums it up pretty well. And our guys, we didn't teach it. I don't even know if we ever taught it, but once or twice in practice a month in, their guy gets so aggressive, they realize, oh man, this is an option. And then it seemed to come out at all the best times throughout the season, especially late.
I love that. That's a great example of letting your players explore and let them figure out some possibilities. Has that always been a part of your coaching philosophy to be able to allow players that space to explore things?
Yeah, I've always believed that's how I wanted it to be. I was not a very good player. And to be around some of the guys I've got a chance to be around and see what they've been able to do, and spent so much time in the gym working with guys on their game and seeing that these guys have so much ability. And then you watch so many times when guys don't get an opportunity to show what they can do, or they're being asked to do just one of the many things that they're able to do. And so I've always believed that our players are better than maybe we give them credit for. And if we would just let them make mistakes and not be frustrated with them and not get so down on them when they make those mistakes, that a lot of some greatness will be able to come out. And that was one of the pillars of what I tried to do when I got here. Is I did not want to ever, I don't know if I could say ever, but I was successful with ever, but I didn't want to show negative emotion when guys made mistakes in games and in practice. I really wanted to coach them on the things that they need to improve without showing negative emotion, because I just think it's really quick that guys will just will just quit on a skill or on an idea because of a really bad negative feedback. And so that was the biggest part of my philosophical in who I am, that I wanted to bring out when I got a chance to be a head coach, is just see if I can be super positive with them. Can greatness that they may have inside come out that maybe wouldn't come out otherwise?
Yeah, I love that introspection from you, and easier said than done, as you referred to as well, but a
No
beautiful
doubt.
thing if you can get there. And Coach, you referenced even mentioning the recruits that it takes time within this offense. But for you and your team this year specifically, what were some of the key performance indicators as the season went on that you felt like we were moving in the right direction with our improvement and our possibilities?
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, we can talk about turnovers. We talked about that already. But for me, and it's not numbers, it's film grading our spacing and seeing our wing spacing improve throughout the year. So because of playing two bigs, the guards can't they can really clog you up. If they get too high out of the corners when the ball's in the middle of the floor, they can really clog up what's going on. And so seeing and addressing that throughout the year on offense and seeing our guys buy in and understand why they had to hold corners and why they had to wait to break to get open until the ball saw them, and how that opened up opportunities not only for the guy who has the ball but for them. But that was really the thing that we harped on from December through January, that we saw a breakthrough in, was that spacing piece and making sure that our guards were deep enough when they needed to be, that they were exploding to the spot that they needed to get to when it was time. And then that our offense requires our bigs to move a lot. And bigs don't necessarily love to do that. But I try to remind our guys, you might not like it, but the guy guarding you hates it, how much we're having you move. And so if we can get you to be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, your man will be late and you'll have opportunities. And so it was really the spacing that allowed me to understand that we were getting it. Even if we didn't make that had a great offensive game, or it would show me that we were trending in the right direction as the spacing improved throughout our season.
Can you go a little deeper in terms of how you grade spacing? I love that idea.
Yeah, Dave Maturo, my assistant, he was at Randolph-Macon Division III for 8 years, won a national championship with Coach Merkel there, and he's in charge, was my offensive coordinator. But he would basically break down possession by possession, especially our guards. Are you in the acceptable range of where you're supposed to be when the ball is where it is? And we tell our guys all the time, the ball tells you where you're supposed to be. You have to watch the ball. You've got to know where the ball is. That tells you where you're supposed to be. And for us, basically, it's, are you within a step or two of the break when you don't have the ball, right? If you're more than two steps above the break and the ball is either in the middle or on the other side of the floor, you're in the wrong spot. And your man can clog up what we're trying to do. And nobody loves to run to the corner and stand in the corner. Guys feel like they're being constricted by running to the corner and standing in the corner. And so getting them to see the value, because for us, what happens a ton is if we can hit that bullseye, right? If we can hit the ball to the elbow with our big, now the ball changes sides of the floor quickly. It's penetrated the defense. And now that guard who's now on the strong side of the floor, if you are not where you're supposed to be, if you're too high, your man screws up our whole thing. right? He can mess with the big and he can guard you. One can guard two, and we lose our advantage. And so having those guys understand that they got to be in that kind of acceptable range, we've got it taped on the floor. And so every day they get a reminder, but then we just watch it with them. At the end of the day, we don't watch long film sessions. We try to watch 5 to 7 clips a day offensively with guys with the team, and then guys will come in individually, obviously. But every day there's a portion of those 5 to 7 are, hey, good spacing, bad spacing, and why did good spacing work and why did bad spacing not work? And how can you see that if we fix this, who's going to be open? My son's 9 years old, and he always wants to sit over my shoulder and watch film. So we've started to play a game, and we'll pause the film, and it's that we've created an advantage in who's open, right? And so I play the same game with our guys, right? It's, hey, we've created an advantage here. Pause it. Who's the guy who's open, or why are you not open? And now you can address, oh shoot, if I was 3 steps lower, I'd be open right now, but instead my guy's guarding both of us.
Well,
So
that
just
highlights so
trying
many
to,
things, Coach. But just that film part of it alone, like that's something, again, such a beautiful way to be able to get players to think with their perception and decision part of it, which is to be able to see possibilities. So I love that. Awesome that your son's doing it too.
so my wife's 5'2", and I'm a bad athlete, so I assume he's not going to play at a very high level. So might as well get him started seeing the game as early as possible.
That's awesome. Many people might have only been exposed to you guys, obviously, in the NCAA tournament, a great win versus American, and then obviously versus Duke. But for me, I watched you guys a little bit through the MAAC tournament, and particularly thinking about that second half versus Iona, where the defense really stood out, and you guys were just outstanding defensively. So maybe talk to us a little bit about the overall defensive philosophy first, and then some of the things that led to, again, improvement throughout the year.
Yeah, like I said, I've been fortunate. I've been working for a defensive-minded coach for the last 8 years, and really helped me in I like to say, my appreciation of the defensive end. Coach Jones is adamant that the team who gives up the least points wins, and I was adamant that the team who scores the most points wins. We would battle often about it, but philosophically, I know in my heart that if you defend and rebound, you always give yourself a chance to win. And there are plenty of days where your ball's not going in. And if you don't defend, you got no chance. And at least you give yourself an opportunity on days that you defend and rebound in. So we spent a lot of time. We are a no middle ice ball screen, down ball screen team, and try to keep the ball on the side of the floor. I like that. I like teams to have to adjust what they do to you. And if we can make reversing the ball or driving it to the middle not an option, now you have to do something that's a little different. And I think the ice and not letting you use the ball screen plays a huge part into that for us. And so we spend time every day. I think it's a lot. I don't know if easier is the right term, but I think it's simpler to get your team to be good defensively. There are very fundamental things that you can do every day. And if you have a high standard, you can have a good defensive team. If you're physical, if you can make your guys have active hands, right? And if you can be physically rebound the ball, you're gonna be a pretty good defensive team. If you let them go middle, if you pack line, it doesn't matter, right? I think offense is a lot harder to necessarily teach guys to be good offensive players. But so we were disciplined defensively, really throughout the year. But again, got better. I worked for Shaka Smart for 3 years at VCU early in the Havoc days, and we started the season pressing it a lot more than we ended up pressing as the year went on. I love pressure defense in the full court and in the half court, but we did, like you said, the first year, and you got some pieces here. Doesn't fit, right? It was not a great fit for who we had, and especially when we suffered some injuries in conference play, we just had to dial some of that back. We still pressured a ton in the half court. We just made teams uncomfortable. You can look at the stats. We don't force very many turnovers. We make you uncomfortable though. We force you into tough shots. The same way our offense is constructed philosophically, so is our defense. So we don't want to give up layups. We really don't want to foul. And we are okay if you take 3-pointers, which again might drive some people crazy in today's day and age of basketball. But we were 300, I think, 52nd in the country in the amount of threes attempted against us this year. But we were top 75 in defensive 3-point percentage. We were able to defend the three and force teams into we haven't completely broken it all down yet from the season, but was a lot of end of the shot clock, lightly contested or contested threes that just don't go in at a high rate at this level of college basketball. And philosophically, that's what we were trying to do. We were trying to force teams to take jump shots. But at the end of the day, whether they were twos or threes, we wanted you to have to take jump shots to beat us. And 14, that ended up being the number. As long as you didn't make 14 threes, we were going to be all right. And so we were okay with that, and it was a big change for our guys, especially the ones who had been here with the previous staff. But most guys get to college and they're used to running guys off the line and flying by people, and I had to really emphasize that I don't care if teams take jump shots as long as you have your hand up. I don't care. And eventually the guys really started to understand, and it changes how you close out. It changes how much you can help and recover, because you know that coach isn't going to get mad if the guy makes the three. I'm going to get mad if the guy gets by and gets to the rim and smacks the backboard for a layup. And so a lot of our growth and success throughout the year came as we dialed back some of that full court pressure and settled in to our half court shell, and were more physical and aggressive in the half court, and didn't have as many possessions that ended up with 3-on-2s and 2-on-1s at the back end of our press.
So many insights there. Thank you for sharing that. First thing that stands out is obviously a little bit of starting with your defense and understanding what you're going to give up, because you can't take it all away. So what are we going to be okay with giving up? But I want you to go maybe a little bit deeper first with the closeout. So you talked about it, you referenced it changing some guys' closeouts. So what particularly changed, and then how did they change?
Yeah, the biggest thing that changed was how close you have to get, not how hard you have to run, not how quickly you have to be able to stop, but how close do you have to get? My whole thing was you just have to be close enough to touch the guy, right? If you're close enough to touch him, then you're close enough to make his shot uncomfortable. And that, again, that's a big change for a lot of guys who are used to running guys off the 3-point line. And we had to drill it. And I'm not one to tell you how to get there. I don't care if you chop your feet. I don't care if you run as hard as you can and stop. I just don't want you to really take a big 2-foot jump stop and leave the ground for a long period of time. But Coach Jones, he had a little acronym, which didn't make a ton of sense to me, but we stole it anyway. It was sky high, and he wanted guys to sprint, chop. The C was to chop your feet. So we eliminated that one. Yell, and then to have high hands. And so we just said sprint, get there, yell, and have high hands, and just make them uncomfortable in your closeout. But
What was the
that
yell
worked for us.
specifically? What were those
Just
yells?
to distract. We wanted to call ball, right? We wanted, if we happened to be in a scramble, we wanted you to know that this person declared the ball. But also, just by yelling that you have the ball, maybe you distract a shooter, maybe you do something to make them slightly more uncomfortable. Just wanted to put any level of doubt in their mind, because we're not going to get all the way to their toes. Even the guys who shoot 50% or 48% from the 3-point line, we are not running that guy off the line. Again, we're going to know who that guy is, and we're going to be aggressive in how we get to him. But we don't change that idea, because even if that guy, this is how I explain to our guys, and if that guy who shoots 48% from three, if he gets 100 threes off in a game, he's going to score just under 150 points. And if that guy gets 100 layups, he's going to score 180 points. So even that guy is going to do better if you let him get all the way to the front of the rim. And we try to simplify it a little bit for them in that light.
Fortunately, you never gave up that amount of points to any player this year. That would have been something.
No doubt.
Your league, part of the fun of your league is, and I know a bunch of the coaches in your league, a lot of different styles, a lot of variable styles and different things like that. So maybe talk to us a little bit about how you approach scouting, particularly within league play.
Yeah. So I feel as though it's my job to make sure that our team is confident, poised, and ready for a game, right? And so I spend the majority of my time on us. I'm fortunate I have a great staff. We break it up football style. We have an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator. We have one guy who does our special teams, our press, and our baseline and bound stuff, and one guy who does personnel for our opponents. And they prep me. They give me cut ups and edits to help prepare me. I watch 2 games at the most, start to finish, of the other team, and the rest is all edits to prepare myself. But I spend the majority of my time on us and giving our guys. I watch a ton of film with our guys individually on their game and where they're at and where we're at as a team. But I give my staff the autonomy to basically game plan with me. We have on this TV I have behind me, it's a smart board, and we've got a Google sheet on there that everybody fills in their area, and then we'll debate it. We'll watch film. and get ourselves prepared for the game. Chris, our league is Friday, Sunday. And Mondays or Tuesdays, whatever that first day of practice you have of the week, a lot of the times you can sneak in a little bit of the second game prep during that time. But also for me, that was our day. That was the day where we could clean up the last two games. Where are the big picture things that we have to clean up, things we've got to improve to allow us to be at our best. And again, with how we played defensively, we were able to limit some of the scouting we have to do for the other team. If we never let you come off a ball screen, it takes a lot of what you want to do. And we wanted to be that disciplined to what we do, take you away from what you want to do. We switch a ton defensively. We switch off the ball 1 through 4. We switch on the ball 1 through 4, and at times 1 through 5. And we were able to, our scouting meetings and our conversation with our guys came down to, hey, there's 2 or 3 things that they're going to go to that, and then do we have to change something that we always do, or don't we? And then we just got to rep it out with the guys.
And I'm guessing based on what you've said so far, you're not changing that much over the course of the season. You're just going to keep doing it and do it better. And what did you find for your players in terms of their improvement? Was it more individually understanding it? Was it collectively? What were the improvements throughout the season more based on?
I think it was a combination of both. I think our guys got better individually at understanding who they were as players. I think that holds a lot of guys back on the defensive end, and on both ends, but especially on the defensive end. We everything is stolen, but I stole started with Coach Smart. Rule number 1 and rule number 2 on defense. And rule number 1 is if your man has the ball, stay between him and the basket. And then rule number 2 is pressure the ball as much as you can without violating rule number 1. Right. And so rule number 2 takes a lot of self-awareness of who you are and who is the guy I'm standing across from. And you wouldn't be surprised, but people might be surprised how much of the film session comes down to, hey, rule number 1. Hey, rule number 2, why are you so far back? Rule number 1, rule number 2. And if you can solve those things, you don't get beat off the bounce. And now you don't break your shell of your defense, and you force teams to take tough shots. And so a lot of our improvement came with the self-realization of, hey, it's okay that I'm not as athletic as the guy in front of me, as long as I can give him the appropriate amount of cushion that we don't have to break down what we do. And then as a group, I think we became a much better defensive rebounding team as the year went on. We don't do 1 billion rebounding drills. I think the risk reward is pretty low for rebounding drills. So we don't do a lot of them. We do start a lot of our play from a rebound. A coach will take a shot, or we'll do the old circle the wagons where the guys are on the perimeter and everybody's circling on the inside and the shot goes up. You got to rebound so you can go play offense. So we will start some of our play from a rebound so guys understand the need to block out or go get the ball. Some guys I think need to block out a lot. Some guys I think just need to go get the ball. I think it's very individualized on who they are and what their strengths are and who they're guarding, or how aggressive their guy is trying to rebound. But our rebounding got significantly better on the defensive end as the year went on. We lost a couple games early in the year because we didn't rebound, and that was pretty eye-opening to our guys. And we held the line on it with them throughout the year until we got good enough at it that it honestly went from being a weakness to a strength.
The rule number 1, rule number 2 thing is obviously outstanding because it's, again, you're giving your players a language to not just be able to understand, but to be able to communicate to each other as well. And that stands out. Talking about beyond the talent of the roster, so let's go into kind of that cultural element, that cultural piece of building a new program for you to be able to build that program. And then again, to be able to manage this progressive development over time that led to this type of success.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm most proud of from the season, honestly, is where our program is today, even with all the departures we had and where our program was to where it is now from a culture standpoint. That was really my only goal coming into the season. That, again, I've worked with guys that have taught me the value there. I don't think there's anybody in our business, in college basketball at least, that builds culture as well as Coach Smart does. And I was fortunate to be there for 3 years and learn. I think that's why so many of us have been successful. We all play different. We all have different X's and O style, but what we all stole from him was how to build teams and how to have great culture and what it takes to do that. And our culture has 3 pillars. They're not groundbreaking, I don't think, but we believe in relationships. We spend a lot of time fostering real and authentic relationships on our team. Most importantly, player to player. We live in a day and age where guys will live in the same apartment as each other. They'll practice together every day. They'll change in the same locker room, and they will never speak to each other if they don't have to. They'll text each other. They'll message each other on a video game, but they won't talk to each other very much. And we spend a lot of time trying to foster those relationships. Simple things like when we go out to eat, the guys have to put their phones in a box and they have to talk to each other at the table. And to a little bit more advanced stuff where we sat our guys down once a week and guys would have to tell their story, and we'd have different topics that we'd have to dive into over the course of the year that really was heavy in the fall and went all the way throughout the season of different things we needed to address. It started out as get to know you stuff and evolved into things our team needed later in the year, conversations we needed to have. But I don't think you can have those conversations later in the year if you don't do the work early to build trust and get to know each other. Certainly player to player relationship, most important. Player to coach also, is important. We show a ton of vulnerability as coaches in our program. I think that's huge. I try to lead the way and model that. I own as best I can. When I make mistakes, I alert the guys in advance that I'm going to make a lot of them. And I try to let them know I'm not going to punish them for theirs. It's part of growth. It's part of us becoming who we want to become. And we spend a ton of time on relationships. Development, we want to get better. We want to get better as basketball players. We want to be better people. We want to be better students. We want to be better in the weight room. I want to recruit guys that want to develop. If you don't have a natural drive to get better, you're not going to be successful here because development is going to be asked of you. And so, again, I think you can't have a lot of development if you don't have great relationships. We were fortunate. We did a great job. Our athletic trainer gets her dream job to go work in Major League Baseball. Awesome. But now we got to hire a new athletic trainer. And so yesterday I'm interviewing this athletic trainer and I'm saying, like, this is probably different than what you've been asked to do before because I want you to have relationships with our players. I want you to be another touch point for them because you're with them as much as any of our coaches are. In my mind, you're a part of our staff and you've got to be able to push forward the same message and help us in getting these guys to develop to be the people that they want to be. And that's what it is at the end of the day. It's partnering with them to become the people and the players that they want to be. Because if I got a team full of guys that want to make it to the NBA and I decide that's not right for them, like that's messed up for me, right? It's mutually beneficial. If all of our guys make it to the NBA, then I can go to the next group of kids and tell them that you come here, I'll make it to the NBA, we'll win a lot, it'll be great for everybody. So why would I want to dissuade that in our development process? And then lastly is joy. And maybe that's the one that's a little bit different, but we want to have a ton of fun. I'm a fun-loving guy. I believe that all of us fell in love with the game, most of us when we were really young, because we were little and put the ball in the basket. Everyone got to see my son running around in the NCAA tournament, which is the coolest thing for me. But he's at that point now. He's 9 years old. He's falling in love with basketball. And he has fun in the driveway or in the cul-de-sac playing with his friends, shooting baskets, making baskets with their friends. Like, why should it be any different at 18, 19, 20 years old? You're just out there playing ball with your friends. And that's what I would like it to be. Now, we all know there's a lot of things that get in the way of that. And so we try to foster having a ton of fun in all that we do. It doesn't mean we don't work hard. It doesn't mean we don't have high standards. It's just that we're going to have a ton of fun through all those things. And silly example, but I told the guys in November that I wanted to lead the country in bench warnings. You watch a college game and the refs doing this the whole game. And every time they did it, they'd yell at me and I'd go to the guys and be like, oh, sit down. And they'd sit down, but then they'd all start going crazy, right? And every time we'd get one, our bench would just go absolutely nuts. And we had a rough patch during the year and we lost 4 games in a row in January. And that was one of the things that came out was that our benches and the guys who aren't in the game, they're not loud enough. They're not, wow, we haven't got a bench warning in 2 games. And some of these things that we can go back to our guys, it's just a way that they can have fun with some of the silliness that goes on throughout our game.
I love that. And you don't have to comment on this, but I always think that's so strange that officials are officiating the bench. There's more things going on the floor than the bench. So we should probably just move on and not worry about the bench, especially when the play is going the other way and there's no safety issues. But anyways, that's an aside. Coach, I love that idea. Foster fun. You're a fun guy. You bring in the fun, all that different stuff. Can you go deeper? Because I think this is something that coaches really do struggle with. I think they generally love the game. They love the joy of the game and they want to bring that for their players and create that environment. But then there's always that challenge. Oh my gosh, we've got to be so intense. We've got to be this and this. So talk to us, maybe give us a few more examples of maybe practice or even scout or different things like that where you foster a little bit of fun.
Yeah. So we have a rule in the gym that if you shoot an air ball, you've got to, wherever you are, you got to stop and just go touch the other end line and come back. First of all, I think if you're a college basketball player, you shouldn't airball very often, right? It's usually bad. It's bad shot selection is probably why you're airballing. So part of it is a teaching point, right? But it becomes a thing, right? When you put it in. First couple days, guys kind of mope and drop their heads, and then everybody's messing with them, right? Then the coaches, we start messing with them. Then I'm out there and we're doing shell defense and against the coaches, and at the end of the shell, we got to shoot it, and we end with a rebound, and I shoot an airball. Then I got to go run and touch, right? And now everybody's laughing and hooting and hollering for me because I shoot the airball. And so little things like that where they can make fun of you, they can have fun with you. Now they're more willing to do it with each other. And so I have to be okay that I'm going to be picked on a little bit, which I'm cool with. I don't mind. I'm not a very good player. I was never a very good player. I'm cool with that. I'm comfortable with where I'm at. But I think that as coaches, if we can be the butt of the joke at first, I think that can help the guys have a little bit more fun. And then they can have fun with each other. Like I said, we don't take it too, I try not to take myself too seriously. We'll splice in to film often. A coach, I didn't have to play very often, but our GA is a baseball player. He didn't play basketball since like his sophomore year of high school or junior year of high school, but he'd have to be out there because we didn't have enough bodies. And so he would do some stuff. He'd fall down. He'd shoot some just shots that have no chance of going in. And we'd splice those into film. One of our student managers, our guys loved him. And he lost in the finals, the intramural championship game at the end of the semester, the first semester. And so we were doing a scout that the next day. And so in our personnel, like we did two of the other team's players, and then we did his slide and put his clips in from the intramural championship game. And we were the whole locker room was dying laughing. And then obviously the kid was fine. We told him we were going to put it in there and talked about him, his strengths and weaknesses as a player. But it just broke the stress of the moment of the scout and allowed guys to have some fun. I think if you trust each other, it starts with a relationship, right? If you have a relationships, then you can pick on each other a little bit and have some fun, and no one's going to take it personally. And that's a big part of being able to do it. If you have a whole bunch of guys who are walking on eggshells and everyone's taking every piece of coaching personally, then it's going to be really hard to joke and have fun.
It's awesome, Coach. Sounds like a fun program to be a part of. Have some fun, compete, obviously have some success, which is a big part of it. And what some success did for your program, we understand. But talk to us specifically about that point from winning the MAAC tournament and now you're going to the NCAA tournament. Talk to us about that period in between, how special that was, but also how you had to get your team focused on getting an opportunity to be able to win a game in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it was, not something I was prepared for. Certainly, first year as a head coach, I'm the only person in our program that's not true. I'm one of three people in our program who had ever been to the NCAA tournament before. Well, the only one really recently. And I tried my best to certainly enjoy what happened. One of the things with the MAAC tournament is we play on our finals on Saturday night. Sunday, so that night, nothing's getting done. I can promise you that. Everybody had a great time, celebrated, enjoyed the tournament. So we get up the next morning and it's Selection Sunday, and we got to travel back here to Emmitsburg on the bus. People are excited. We get to parade through town. I don't know if you've ever been here to Emmitsburg, but it's a small town that loves basketball. It's really a cool place. I was fortunate in the whole job process to know how good of a job it was because I was here as an assistant. But if you don't know the place, you wouldn't know just how much they care. So we had to take the bus all the way through town, and people are lining the streets, and we're having a great time. And so we get back to campus, and it's 3 p.m. The selection show starts at 6. I grabbed a quick nap on my couch in the office. The guys got ready. We did the selection show, and with playing in the first 4, it's a quick turnaround. And by noon the next day, we were on a flight to Dayton and able to have a practice later that afternoon. But we basically celebrated until we got to Dayton. And as a staff, obviously, we started to get to work, but we gave the guys that time to enjoy their experience and what they've done. And then we're able to get there and refocus and have a practice. We play an American in the tournament who our guys are super familiar with. Our schools are 45 minutes from each other. The schools had played like 4 of the last 5 years. There was a little natural rivalry and excitement for that game because of that. And that helped, I think. It helped us turn the page. If we were playing a school that we'd never heard of or a place that was really far away, maybe it would have been harder to turn that page so quick to get ready to play. But I thought we did a great job of enjoying the moment, which I think you have to do. Again, if we're going to have fun and we're going to be a program that celebrates and enjoys what we're doing, you've got to take the time to enjoy what you just did. We worked so hard to give ourselves that opportunity. But then because of what we do, there's another opportunity right around the corner. And our guys really wanted to win a tournament game, right? And I think the first 4 is a great opportunity for a school like us to be the only game on, to play a game in the tournament that's a 50-50 type of a game. That doesn't happen very often as a low major school. And so to get a game like that was awesome. Our guys they were able to turn the page quickly and be really locked in. Honestly, play one of the best games we played all year against American, and it was a great way to continue our season and a great feeling. That was that they were. I'm not great at big picture for myself. I'm a very one day at a time. Enjoy that day, and then what do I need to do today? With our big end goals in mind, but I don't get very far ahead of myself. But that was a day that I stood out there, and it was a wow type of a moment as a coach to get to win an NCAA tournament game and your first chance to be out there and to have your guys play so well in a game that means so much. It was really cool.
Very cool. And what an experience that must have been. And coach, onwards and upwards now. What's next? That's always the question for coaches. I know the biggest challenge is now we've got to move on and put that behind us and now do more. And coach, I cannot thank you enough for sharing all this with us, but also just how exciting it's going to be to watch you with this program this season. More eyes will be on you, and that's always a good thing too. And look forward to watching you coach this season.
No, I really appreciate it, Chris. It's like I said, it's a great job and a great league. We'll finish up here putting together a really strong team. I think that will give us a chance to compete again next season. So it's a fun time and a great time to be up here in Emmitsburg, that's for sure.